Hello, Buford Middle School students. This is Mrs. Wilborn again, continuing with Accentuate the Negative, Lesson 6, Adding Integers. Our essential question for this lesson is, how do I add integers? Here's a question of the day, and what you'll find is by the end of this lesson you'll be able to solve this question. At a desert weather station, the temperature at sunrise was -10 degrees Celsius. It rose 25 degrees Celsius by noon. What was the temperature at noon? So again, our goal is to review this at the end of the lesson. We'll come back to this exact same question and see how you did. Alright, there are two basic rules that you have to remember when you're adding integers, and there's no way around it, but you have to memorize these. We've come up with two little songs, a song and a chant, I guess, that will show you, but bottom line is you have to memorize this. And the first rule is when the signs are the same. So when both numbers that you're adding are either both negative or both positive, you add the numbers and you keep the sign. That's very important, so I'm going to say that one more time. When the signs are the same, either the numbers that you're adding are both negative signs or they're both positive signs, you add the numbers and you keep the same sign. So adding the numbers and keeping the same sign is very, very, very important to memorize. Okay, and here's our example. -3 plus -4. The signs are the same because both numbers have negative signs. They're both negative numbers. So we're going to add the numbers. 3 plus 4 is 7, and we kept the negative sign. The negative sign comes along to your answer. Okay, that's rule number one. Rule number two is when the signs are different. And when the signs are different, meaning that one number is positive, one number is negative, you subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger number. Okay, now this is the rule that usually trips people up. All right, so let's go through that again. When the signs are different, meaning one number is negative and one is positive. Okay, it doesn't matter which order that they're in, but the two numbers that you're adding are different signs. You subtract, okay? You actually subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger number. All right, and here we have an example. -3 plus +4. All right, -3 plus +4. The signs are different, so I'm going to subtract the numbers. 4 minus 3 gives me 1. That's how we got this. And I'm going to keep the sign of the larger number. Well, since 4 is larger than 3, I'm going to keep the positive sign, so it's +1. Okay, y'all. We have two. One's a chant that I'm going to explain to you, and this is something that we'd like for you to listen over and over and memorize yourself. And this is a great way to keep those two rules that we just went through organized in your mind. And on a test or a quiz, you can come back to those and you'll always remember the rules. Now, with that said, you will quickly find that Mrs. Wilborn is not close. I'm not going to be the next contestant on The Voice, okay? I have no singing ability, so I'm going to just go for it, and you can certainly know what I'm talking about when I say I am not going to be the next contestant on The Voice. All right, here's how it goes. If the signs are the same, you add the numbers and keep the same sign. If the signs are the same, you add the numbers and keep the same sign. If the signs are different, you find the difference and keep the bigger sign. If the signs are different, you find the difference and keep the bigger sign. So if you can do that to yourself, say that to yourself, learn the chant, sing it to yourself several times, and memorize the rules, and then apply it when you come to a math problem, you'll be in great shape for finding the right answer. Okay, and here's our second. This is integer operations, and this goes to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. We all know that little nursery rhyme from before. So again, I'm going to go for it and sing it for you, but please know, I'm definitely not, a great singer. So, same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, then you'll be exact. Multiply and divide, it's an easy task. Same signs are positive, different signs are not. So you can again use this as a little trick and a little tool to help you to remember the two rules of adding integers. Okay, this is a flow chart that helps us to remember what to do every time we come to a question where we're going to be adding integers. All right, and basically how you use this chart is you start at the top and you're going to work your way down, okay? And so every time you come to a question, if you can ask yourself, are the signs the same? And then based on your answer, you're going to move to the left side of the table or you'll move to the right side of the table. If the signs are the same, so if you say to yourself, are the signs the same? And the answer is yes, then you're going to move down and it tells you what to do. Add the numbers and keep the common sign. Okay, so you come to a next problem. You ask yourself the same question, are the signs the same? If your answer is no, then you're going to find the difference between the numbers and keep the sign of the larger number. All right, all three math teachers in 7th grade have this rule posted on their wall. So please, we want you to use this. We want you to get in the habit of asking yourself this question every time you come across a problem. And it makes it real easy to follow the chart and help you and tell you what you're to do. Okay, let's go through and try a couple of these. Now, as the numbers get larger, you're going to definitely need a scratch sheet of paper. And you have to remember to keep the scratch work far away from the actual problem. All right, so let's look at this first one. So we have negative 5 plus 10. All right, I'm going to ask myself, are the signs the same? Well, I'm hoping that you're going to say no to that because I have a negative number here and a positive number here. And so my rule tells me if the signs are not the same, to find the difference, that means subtract, and keep the sign of my larger number. So I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to say 10 minus 5 is 5. And since 10 was the larger number and it was the positive number, my answer is positive. All right, let's move on and try another one. Number 2. 8 plus negative 18. Again, I'm going to ask myself the question every time, are the signs the same? My answer in this case is going to be no again, because I have a positive number here and I have a negative number here. All right, so I find the difference. All right, so I'm going to look for my larger numeral, which is 18. 18 minus 8 gives me 10. And now I have to go back and figure out the sign. Well, my larger number is 18, and since it had a negative sign in front of it, that's the sign I need to use in my answer. So my final answer is negative 10. Okay, let's look at another one. 5 plus negative 9. Now, just so you know, these parentheses are here only to represent this as a negative number, so don't let that confuse you with anything. It's just so you don't have an operation and a negative sign right next to one another. So it's just to hold that negative sign with the number 9. So 5 plus negative 9, are the signs the same? No, they're not, because I have a positive number and a negative number. So I need to find the difference. 9 minus 5 is 4. And since 9 was my larger number and it had a negative sign in front of it, I'm going to put a negative sign in front of my answer. So my answer is negative 4. All right, here we go. Let's do another one. 2 plus negative 2. Are the signs the same? No, because I have a positive number and a negative number. So I find the difference. 2 minus 2 is 0. Well, since 0 is neither positive or negative, I don't put a sign. 0 is like neutral. All right, so I don't need a negative sign or a positive sign. I just leave it as 0. And then finally, on this side, number 5. Negative 18 plus 20. Are the signs the same? Well, your answer is no, they're not the same because I have a negative number and a positive number. So I find the difference. 20 minus 18 is 2. And I'm going to keep the sign of my larger number. 20 was larger, it's positive, so my final answer, 2, is positive. All right, let's move up to number 6. Negative 11 plus 14, negative 11 plus 4. I'm going to ask myself again, are the signs the same? In this case, my answer is yes, they are the same. So I add the numbers and keep the common sign. So I'm going to add 11 plus 4 gives me 15. And I keep the common sign, so it becomes negative 15. Since my signs were the same, both numbers were negative, I keep the negative sign in my final answer. All right, number 7, 20 plus negative 13. Are the signs the same? No. I have a positive 20 and a negative 13. So I'm going to find the difference. The signs are different, so I find the difference. 20 minus 13 is 7. Since 20 was my larger number and 20 is positive, my answer is positive. Keep the sign of the larger number. 20 is larger. All right, and then number 8, negative 25 plus 20. Are the signs the same? Answer is no, they're not the same. So I'm going to find the difference. 25 minus 20 is 5. Since 25 was my larger number and it had a negative sign with it, my answer has a negative sign. Number 9, 20 plus negative 30. Are the signs the same? No, the signs are not the same. So I find the difference. 30 minus 20 is 10. It had a negative sign with it, so my answer is negative. And finally, the last one, number 10, negative 26 plus negative 4. Are the signs the same? Yes. So I add the numbers and keep the common sign. So I'm going to add 26 plus 4 is 30. And since both signs were negative, they were the same, I keep the common sign, which makes this negative 30. Okay, that was 10 practice problems. Now, you're going to try a couple on your own. Go ahead and pause the video. There are 10 more questions for you to do. You may need to have a scratch sheet of paper because the numbers are a little bit larger. Follow the 2 rules that you learned, and then your teacher will review them in class tomorrow. In class tomorrow, we'll also kind of show you some demonstrations of how you use a number line to represent adding integers and using some manipulatives. So over the next days, we'll have some activities for you to work on so that you get a clear understanding of adding integers. But the 2 rules are very important for you to memorize. All right, before we go, we're going to go back to the question of the day. At the desert weather station, the temperature at sunrise was negative 10 degrees Celsius. It rose 25 degrees Celsius by noon. What was the temperature at noon? All right, so we're going to go through and talk about some important information. Number 1, negative 10. Okay, and it rose which is going to be a hint word that talks about adding 25 degrees. So it started off with -10, and then we rose, so we're going to add 25 degrees. And we're trying to find out what the temperature was at noon. Well, we have -10 plus 25. Are the signs the same? No, they're not, so we need to subtract. Find the difference. Signs are different, so find the difference. 25 minus 10 is 15. Find the difference and keep the sign of the larger number. 25 was larger, it's positive, so my answer is positive. So at noon, it was 25 degrees Celsius. Sorry, pen's kind of acting up here. Okay. That's the end of lesson 6.